Welcome to South Asia Maps. This is J. Reddy at South Asia Maps, the channel for intellectual Kshatriyas. South Asia Map is an educational channel that brings you the knowledge about the geography, heritage and culture of South Asian regions for our audience, that is south of Karakoram and north of Kanyakumari. If you are following me in other social channels, please go to our main YouTube channel. You can type South Asia Maps and J. Reddy, and we have plethora of very fascinating presentations I have made for your intellectual curiosity and learning process. And in Punjab itself, I have more than we can see. Punjab region has round about 80 slides, 18 you can see here, and Punjab history has 6, so that means round about 25. Each slide assuming more than 30 or 40 minutes. High quality pictures and maps will enthrall you and make you to understand and love our motherland. Please go there and subscribe and put your comments. I really appreciate your input on that, and we get back to our regular presentation today. Excuse me for my allergies. Today your articulate presenter will talk about the Treaty of Amritsar 1809 at South Asia Maps channel. And Treaty of Amritsar after the completion of this presentation, you will have a lot of understanding about the Sutlej river. You see the river Sutlej here, you see the river Bias here and river Ravi here. Across river Ravi, that is Radcliffe line, we have a Jammu and Kashmir region, the former Gulab Singh Dogra Maharaja's territories, and Lahore city here, Amritsar district itself here, Amritsar town. I can enlarge it for you. This is the former princely state of Kapurthala Sultanpur Lodi, and it has Phagwara exclave outside. And princely state of Bahawalpur ruled by Nawab, and Firozpur district and Rupnagar town. To orient you, Delhi will be somewhere here, and historic British territory district of Ludhiana south of Sutlej river, the hilly area of Simla that is in the Cis-Sutlej states, and also summer capital of British East India Raj and British East India Company in the Raj. And we will know about Ranjit Singh, and we will know about Charles Metcalfe. That is about the Treaty of Amritsar. There are two treaties, that is Treaty of Amritsar, you can call Treaty of Amritsar-1, that is 1809, and the second treaty. This treaty is between the Khalsa Sarkar, Khalsa Darbar at Lahore city on the Ravi river, headed by Maharaja Ranjit Singh, and British East India Company Bahadur, signed in 1809. There is other Treaty of Amritsar, that is Amritsar Treaty 2, that was signed between Raja of Jammu Gulab Singh Dogra Jammuwalia, who was a courtier and principal minister of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, and British East India Company Bahadur at the time of Lord Hardinge, the Governor General. that is a different story and much broader picture, and we will discuss that Treaty of Amritsar II that was signed in 1846, that is after First Anglo-Sikh War. This is before that. So that Treaty of Amritsar-1. Treaty of Amritsar-1 is about the river Sutlej. Sutlej as a boundary between the British East India Company Bahadur's territory and Maharaja Ranjit Singh territory. The incipient Khalsa Sarkar or Khalsa Darbar or Sikh Sarkar and Sikh kingdom established by Maharaja Ranjit Singh. You will come across two important terms you should be aware of. Cis-Sutlej states, Trans-Sutlej state. Sutlej river is a very mighty river, one of the 5 or many tributaries of river Sindhu, and it is one of the major tributary of river Panjnad, other tributary being Chenab here, Sutlej. Sutlej river somewhere comes from here, originates in an area called Manasarovar, that is in Trivishnapura area or the modern Tibet, which is now under Chinese control. The Tibet here, and it crosses the Trans-Himalayan mountains at a place called somewhere here Shipki Pass, and enters into Himachali Punjab area in the Kinnaur district. At that time it was called princely state of Bashar, south of it. There the river gets its major tributaries from the south, Bashpa river, in the north Spiti river, and it forms soon an area called Baspa Valley and Rampur Valley, that is a part of historic Simla district, Rampur Valley and Mahasu Valley, and here it cuts the Shivalik mountains again at a place called Bilaspur, where Bhakra and Nangal Gorges are present, and Bhakra Dam was built and later Nangal Dam was built. That was previously Bilaspur princely state, hilly Punjab state, and then goes around historic city of Anandpur Sahib and so on. It enters into the Punjab plains at a place called Ropar, also called Rupnagar. Historically it was a part of, so here somewhere Bilaspur here, right, and Sutlej river, Bilaspur here, Rupnagar. Here you see the Rupnagar or Ropar. Historically it was part of Ambala district of British East India Company. Here it enters into the Punjab plains completely. The river flows in the plains. It will be round about I guess 250 meters or so of the mean sea level. The river forms the boundary between the Ambala here, Ludhiana, Hoshiarpur here, and Jalandhar district, Taran and Kapurthala district. It bends and continues in the Punjab plains, separate Firozpur district, Lahore and Kasur, and south of it Bahawalpur princely state and Shahiwal district, Montgomery district. Finally somewhere here Sutlej river joins with Chenab river at a place called Alipur or Uch Sharif. In the Multan area or Bahawalpur area, the combined stream of Sutlej and Chenab here is called Panjnad. It is the Panjnad after 70 kilometers or so travels in the Punjab plains and joins mighty Sindhu river or Indus river or Darya Sindhu at a place called Mithankot, and the journey continues. So the Sutlej is very important. Suppose the Delhi will be somewhere here, Delhi territory in the Haryana area. We are positioning ourselves in Delhi and traveling towards the Sonipat and Panipat and Karnal, Ambala, goes to Ludhiana, Jalandhar, Amritsar, Lahore, and Gujranwala, Wazirabad, and Zeelam and Rawalpindi, and enter into Peshawar Basin and Jamrud, and cross the Khyber Pass at Landi Kotal, enter into Jalalabad, and Kabul. So when you position yourself here, this is the Sutlej river, and this area south of it called Cis-Sutlej. Across the Sutlej, this is called Trans-Sutlej. So Cis-Sutlej territories and Trans-Sutlej territories. Why we are talking about this, you will know at the end of this talk. Then the river Sutlej gathers the Bias river, a small river that flows within the Indian territory, and we will have Hoshiarpur district here, that is Dasya and Kapurtara, Sultanpur Lodi, Jalandhar and Hoshiarpur and Balanchor and all those areas. And we have a Ravi river. The Ravi river is the historic Radcliffe line, that is the separation between the Indian territories here and Believers territories, Mumin territories, that is Darul Islam here, Darul Harb here, and that is the virtual separation here. So that is in brief about this geographical area. Here I have specially drawn for you different times. When I show the Punjab area, I will draw you different geographical entities so that these will be etched in your mind. Here I am showing a princely state of Faridkot. This is a Faridkot here, the Firozpur, Faridkot and Moga and Muktasar will be somewhere here. Faridkot was a princely state. It was ruled by a Sikh Maharaja. Then Malerkotla was a small princely state, now in the Barnaula district or Shangru district, and south of Ludhiana district, and that was ruled by a Mohammedan Nawab of Malerkotla. And that is about Malerkotla and Faridkot. Just to orient yourself, Cis-Sutlej and Trans-Sutlej. We discuss about Islamic imperialism, Muslim invasions of India and domination, Ghaznavis and Gorges and slave sultans. Finally, the Mughals established their empire based upon Delhi and Agra. And as the Muslim empire collapsed, Islamic imperialism by Marathas, that means later there is a contest between Marathas from Pune at the foothills of Sahyadri mountains and Muslim rulers, again Islamic imperialists from Kabul called Afghans or Durranis, Ahmad Shah Durrani. They fought a mighty battle. It was a very earth-shaking battle, rather to say, that played a very important role in the modern history. In the Cis-Sutlej area, in the almost like close to Karnal or Panipat Battle 3, the emptiness occurred, a political vacuum. Durrani went back to Kabul and Kandahar, and there was a vacuum here. Sikh missiles, small principalities that were contesting for political power and start quarreling among themselves. And Ranjit Singh belonged to one such principality called Misl. Misl means a Persian word for a small kingdom. District, 1.5 districts or something like that. He was the ruler of a misl called Sukerchakia, that was in Gujranwala district, that is across this river Ravi, and there is a Chenab here, there is a Jammu and Aknur here, Sialkot here, and Gujranwala will be somewhere here. Maharaja was born in Gujranwala in the area called Rechnadov. River Ravi and Chenab is called Rechnadov, Bias and Ravi called Barido. He declared himself and conquered Lahore. Symbolically, conquering the Lahore means a ruler of Punjab. Even though Lahore was a principal city, Peshawar and the other side of the basin is also principal city. Multan, somewhere he is also principal city. This is the Barido. And Maharaja Ranjit Singh started conquering all the missiles. And some of the missiles here were called Kasur. And so his ambition was to become the ruler of all the six. Six lived from almost from Jhelum river to almost Ghaggar river. This is Sutlej river and Trans-Sutlej, Sutlej, and there is a Ghaggar river somewhere here. Ghaggar is a transition zone between northern Punjab Malwa and southern Haryanvi speaking areas. This is Punjab Malwa, the Malwa region of Punjab. That is Fazilka, Firozpur and Jira, Faridkot, Moga, Muktasar, Ludhiana and Patiala, Nabha, Sangrur, Batinda, all those regions. Malwa region, Pavad region and so on. And he used to ride these areas and fight here. British meanwhile acquired this area, Cis-Sutlej area, from Marathas after 1801-1803, the Second Maratha War. So they become the British territories, and all these areas come under the nominal protection of the Britishers. So when the last time when he was riding this area, all the rulers here, Sikh rulers, Musalman rulers, got perturbed. They asked for British protection. That means they asked the British to help them, else Ranjit Singh will swallow them and conquer their territories. At that time, the Governor General of East India Company was Lord Minto. Lord Minto was the Governor General in 1809, because the treaty was signed at that year, right? That means 1813, Lord Wellesley, Lord Hastings, not Warren Hastings. Warren Hastings was before. Lord Hastings became the Governor General in 1813 and 23, during whose time the important wars, the Third Maratha War fought. So Minto was the Governor General. So Minto sent Lord Metcalfe as ambassador to Maharaja Ranjit Singh to negotiate the treaty. And Ranjit Singh's followers egged the Maharaja to fight the British so that he can conquer all these areas and annex to the nascent Sikh kingdom at Lahore. But Ranjit Singh at that time was a very small ruler. Militarily he was not capable, so he was very realistic and didn't take that path, and instead of that he negotiated. Ranjit Singh was born in 1780 in Gujranwala in the Rechnado, and he passed away in 1839. That means if we make it 40, almost 60 years when he passed away at Lahore, the normal death. So at that time he was around about 29 or so. So what they decided was, British asked the Sutlej will be the frontier, the boundary between the territories of Maharaja on the north. So if you travel like Sutlej, this is the right bank of Sutlej, that is Trans-Sutlej. This is the left bank of Sutlej, or south of Sutlej, north of Sutlej. Sutlej became the boundary between. Ranjit Singh agreed. So British said, you can do anything what you want about this territory on the north side. South side he cannot interfere with the principalities of small kingdoms. And Ranjit Singh agreed, and the treaty was signed between Ranjit Singh and British East India Company Bahadur in 1809 at Amritsar in the Barido. Barido means you have Kangra district here, Pathankot, Gurdaspur, Batala, Amritsar, Taran, Baba Bakala and Aznala. You have Lahore here, Kasur, Chunian, and excuse me, you have Shahiwal and Montgomery, Pak Patan, Vihari and all those things. Finally, Multan, this is the Barido. The treaty was signed. What are the advantages Ranjit Singh gained by signing the treaty? It relieved them any pressure from the south side, so he can concentrate on the north side, fight with the Islamic imperialist. Nawab of Multan was a Nawab under loose Afghan control or Durrani control, and Nawabs in Peshawar and fighting the Afghans. Durrani inheritors of this throne. So if he was fighting them and if British attack him, he will be in a difficult position. So that was the advantage he got. Later he conquered Multan in 1818. 1 year later he conquered Kashmir, which was under the Musalman rule, under Durrani's control. And in 1823 he conquered Peshawar also. That means, after this means the treaty was signed in 1809. Maharaja survived nearly for 3 decades on the treaty. For a small missile like a district, Gujranwala district, that is Sukerchakia Misl, which he inherited from his parent Mahan Singh, was very small. So now it becomes a very big, mighty kingdom. We can call a Sikh empire also, or Sikh kingdom, to be very modest. So that was the advantage Ranjit Singh eventually gained. What is British gained of that? British at that time was paramount power in India. Practically they controlled the land from Chetgaon, that is Chittagong bordering Burma, all the Bengal plains and Purbiya plains and Gangetic plains up to the Sutlej, the Malwa region in the south. The ruler of Travancore and ruler of Cochin and Mysore, Nizam were there protected. Essentially they controlled the entire India except West Punjab or Punjab, Ranjit Singh and Sindh. They should have challenged him, I even conquered him. But British didn't take that approach. They wanted to build their empire step by step. And still Afghans were very powerful in Kabul and Kandahar. And if they conquered these territories, and still Multan kingdom was there, and Peshawar was under Musalman control, and Kashmir was under Musalman control, that was under Muslim rule, Islamic imperialism. They have to fight. Instead of do that, they wanted to consolidate their recently acquired territories. So they didn't take that decision to fight with Ranjit Singh. Moreover, Ranjit Singh didn't give them any offense. He didn't enter into their territories. He was just encroaching and trying to conquer some of the missiles here. They are called Phulkian missiles. That means originally started by a Jat ruler called Phulkian. Like the princely state later of Patiala and Nabha and Jind and all those areas here. They are called Phulkian missiles. He was only attacking them and trying to incorporate them. So that was prevented by the treaty. So the British, in a sense, got some advantage. And after the treaty, 1809, Maharaja passed away in 39, and the kingdom collapsed, almost entered into anarchy. The Sardars fighting each other, and it survived round about 9 years. And 30th March, Lahore Treaty 2, British finally annexed the kingdom of Maharaja Ranjit Singh's descendant, Maharaja Dalip Singh, a boy of he was round about 10 months when Maharaja passed away. 1809 means the annexation of Punjab occurred in 49, means he was around about 9 years old or so. The Treaty of Amritsar was signed Maharaja Ranjit Singh during the Minto's time. The Minto demitted the office round about 1813, and Lord Hastings, who fought the Third Maratha War, succeeded, was in office round about 10 years or so. That is until 23. Afterwards, Lord Ormhead, who fought Burmese war, succeeded him around about 4 or 5 years, so around about 1828 or so. Ormhead was the Governor General of East India Company, succeeded by Lord Bentinck or William Bentinck. And Maharaja met William Bentinck, the Governor General of East India Company, Bahadur, at Rupnagar, round about, I think, 1832 or so. And Ranjit Singh has a cordial relations with Minto and successor Hastings, successor Ormhead, successor Bentinck. And after Bentinck, Charles Metcalfe himself was a Governor General for 1 year or so. Here I have put it 1835 to 36, Lord Metcalfe. After Metcalfe, Auckland became the Governor General in 36. Auckland held the office from 36 to 42, and Ranjit Singh had cordial relations with Auckland also. During the Auckland time, Maharaja Ranjit Singh passed away peacefully at Lahore in 1839, and Auckland later was succeeded by Ellenborough. Ellenborough didn't disturb the Sikhs, and he was succeeded by the Hardinge, and the first Sikh war was fought, and 3 years later second Sikh war was fought during the time of Lord Dalhousie. Dalhousie's expansionist policies made the annexation of Maharaja's kingdom. The legacy is what did that treaty left in the modern times. The today's, if you look at the politics, they are highly influenced by that when you start connecting the dots. Consolidation of the Sikh rule for a small missile, the Sikh's identity, the Khalsa as a major outcome of the Sikh. Sikh religion was at that time very broad, and Khalsa got consolidated, one branch of Sikhism, 5 symbols and so on, 6, and later first time tasted a political fervor from Khyber Pass to Sutlej. So they became the ruling elite, building the Sikh aristocracy and all those things. And after the kingdom was conquered by the British cultivation of Sikhs as a separate group and giving them the privileges, recruiting them in the large numbers in the army. At one time, Sikhs formed 25% of army in the British India, even though their population was less than 1%, round about 1% or so in South Asia. So all these things, eventually the Punjabi Subha formation and Sikh separatism, assassination of Srimati Gandhi in 1984, and all those things are indirectly related to the legacy of Treaty of Amritsar signed between Maharaja Ranjit Singh and Charles Metcalfe, the representative of Lord Minto, the Governor General appointed by the British East India Company. Excuse me. Let's go and look at some of the maps, and you will get a better understanding of this treaty. So here I am showing in this some of the you can see here this is the Sutlej river. You can see Bilaspur princely state, and north of Sutlej this is the Suket princely state, Mandi princely state. This is called Punjab hill states or Simla hill states. Later river Sutlej enters somewhere here at Shipki Pass. Here it gathers Bashpa river, and it gets a Spiti river here, the Bashpa valley and Rampur valley in the Sutlej, the today's the Simla district, and Mahasu valley, that is Suket area, and enters it a gorge at Bilaspur, Bhakra-Nangal here. This is the Hoshiarpur district. Rupnagar will be somewhere here. This is the historic. You see the Ambala district. This is the Cis-Sutlej area, Ludhiana district and Firozpur district, and and these are Cis-Sutlej states, Patiala state, Jind state, and you can see the Loharu state, Pataudi state. These are their territories were distributed towards this Haryana area, Haryanvi area. Cis-Sutlej, Ambala district, Ludhiana district, Firozpur district, Jalandhar district is the north of Sutlej, that is Trans-Sutlej. The Hoshiarpur district, Amritsar district, Sutlej river continues here across Lahore district and Shahiwal district, that is Montgomery district. This is the Sutlej river continues here. You have the Bahawalpur princely state ruled by Nabha in the area called Cholistan desert region. That is nothing but other name for Thar desert in that region. Then we have Muzaffar. Here it gets the Chenab river here and forms Panjnad. This small area is Panjnad and joins this is the Indus river. Panjnad will be here and Indus river and continues. The Indus river here and continues into Sindh area and so on. The Chenab river, Uch Sharif here and Panjnad and Mithankot of Indus and continues. So with this Maharaja able to conquer all these areas, Attok, Jhelum, Gujarat, Sialkot. Gujranwala is the area where Maharaja Ranjit Singh's father had a missile, small kingdom, and till Peshawar and all those areas. Khyber Pass will be somewhere here. And we are looking at the same thing, but here you can see the Sutlej river, that is the boundary between Maharaja Ranjit Singh territories in the south and, Ranjit Singh territories in the north and British East India Company territories in the south. Again, the Sutlej river, we are looking at Sutlej river. Here, Sutlej river somewhere comes here, Sutlej river Shipki Pass, and comes here. This is the Simla district. Simla is the here. Sioni is the taluk in Simla district. This is the Sutlej river. This is the Kulu area. This is the Mandi area. Sutlej continues. Borders between the Suket. Now that is a part of Mandi district. And Bilaspur here used to be a princely state. You see the Sutlej river and Bilaspur area, and Anandapur Sahib will be somewhere here, and the river is dammed at Bhakra-Nangal, and the river Sutlej joins Anandapur Sahib here, river Anandapur Sahib and Sutlej finally at Rupnagar. The Sutlej joins, comes into the Punjab plains. You see the Rupnagar in the historic Ambala district. Sutlej river continues. South of Sutlej is Ambala here, Ludhiana you can see. Crossing Ludhiana means crossing the river is entering into Maharaja territories. Travelers coming and crossing from Trans-Sutlej into Ludhiana is British territories. So British built their cantonments in Ludhiana and Ambala and Firozpur during the time of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, and looking at the activities of Maharaja, that means they had a long historical goals and plans just waiting for the natural demise of Maharaja. So though we have Ludhiana at Harike Pattan, it gathers the Bias river. This is the princely state of Kapurthala. You can see Sultanpur Lodi, and Harike Pattan here. This is Firozpur, and the river Sutlej continues. You have Firozpur and Kasur. You see the entire Firozpur district, Jalalabad and Fazilka. The mighty Sutlej continues. You can see Shahiwal district here, Pakpattan, Dipalpur and Vehari, those areas. This is the Cholistan area, Bahawalpur princely state you can see here, and this is the Bahawalpur, this is the Bahawalnagar, the same princely state. And at Bahawalpur the river gathers, this is the Chenab river, This is the Uch Sharif, the river Sutlej. It was a boundary between the southern part, the British Protectorate's northern part, and at Uch Sharif joins Chenab, forms the Panjnad. This is the Panjnad river, around about 70 kilometers. The Panjnad is actually the tributary of Indus. All the 5 rivers, that is Sutlej and Bias. Sutlej gathers Bias and Chenab gathers Jhelum from here and Ravi from here. There are actually only 2 rivers. Those are the tributaries of Panjnad, which self is a tributary of Sindhu. This is the Mithankot, and it enters in the Sindhi speaking areas here and at a place called Kashmir. I discussed about, presented the difference between Kashmir and Kashmir. You can go and look at in the playlist. So that is about the Sutlej river, the boundary between the East India Company Bahadur's territories, and essentially this is looking at the same, but you will get a different perspective. The Sutlej river here, Bahawalpur here, and Amritsar here, and Ludhiana here, and the river Ravi, and so on. So what did we discuss today? Today we discuss about a very fascinating topic. The Treaty of Amritsar, signed in 1809 between the ruler of a nascent Sikh kingdom, Khalsa Darbar or Khalsa Sarkar at Lahore, on the river Ravi, at a town called Amritsar, that is in the Bari-Doab region or Maja region, that is the heartland of Punjab. Bari means Bias and Ravi-Doab. And Sutlej as a boundary between Maharaja's territories in the north, Trans-Sutlej areas, and British East India Company territories in the south of Sutlej, that is Phulkian princely state and Simla hilly states or Punjab hill states and so on. Bashar and Kalsia and Sirmur and Simla, the Nalagarh, Malerkotla, Patiala, Jind, Loharu, Pataudi, and Duzana, Faridkot, Bahawalpur, all those areas, Cis-Sutlej state we talked about. The treaty was negotiated by a prominent British statesman and principal administrator, principal advisor, the advisor of Lord Minto, Charles Metcalfe. Metcalfe himself, after Benting, round about 20 years or so, became the Governor General. You can see the importance. That means the negotiator later raised himself. Round about 36 means round about 20. If you say 1810 plus 36 means round about 25 years or so later, he became the Governor General, and he has a very cordial relations with Maharaja Ranjit Singh himself. And legacy of the Treaty of Amritsar, Islamic imperialism established by the Ghaznavis and Gorges collapsed during the time of Mughals and Aurangzeb, and later replaced by Duranis. The Maratha interlude. Marathas conquered Punjab and held it nearly for 1 year or plus. So they had their headquarters at Attock and Peshawar and Multan, but unable to keep it up because they lost the major war with Durrani, Shah of Afghanistan at Kabul, Ahmad Shah Durrani at Panipat in the second week of January in 1761. That created the political vacuum. British east in the Indo-Gangetic plains and Durrani's west of the Khyber Pass. That political vacuum was filled by the Sikh missiles. There were 12 of them. Ranjit Singh missile of Gujranwala or Sukerchakia as one, Ranjit Singh annexed all of them eventually, or swallowed them, and built a very big Punjabi kingdom. This was a native ruler after the collapse of Shahiyas. Shahiyas fought against Ghazni, Trilochan Pal, Anand Pal, and all those rulers around about 1020. They got defeated. From 1020 to round about 1820 or so, nearly 800 years, there was no native rule. It was under Islamic imperialism. Ranjit Singh conquered them. That is the great contribution Ranjit Singh made to our heritage and culture. And after the death, unfortunately, the Lahore Darbar plunged into anarchy and chaos, and that gave the British, already looking eagerly at Firozpur and Sutlej, Ludhiana and Sutlej, Ambala close to Sutlej, and they moved in and finally annexed the kingdom. That means almost 40 years later, the kingdom that Maharaja Ranjit Singh built after the treaty collapsed. That region became the part of British Punjab territory, designated as a British Punjab in 1849 March 30. That is Second Treaty of Lahore. We look at it later. This is J. Reddy, your facilitator. Thank you very much for joining me, and I really appreciate your joining, and if you are enjoying our intellectual presentations, where I make a very great effort to bring you drawing and redrawing these maps from various sources, so that they will give you immense amount of knowledge etched in your mind clearly and easily in the form of icons. Please subscribe our channel at YouTube and start posting your comments there, and I will see you later. This is J. Reddy at South Asia Maps, discussed today about the Treaty of Amritsar between the ruler of Sikh Kingdom Maharaja Ranjit Singh and British East India Company Bahadur's Governor General Lord Minto's representative Charles Metcalfe. Thank you very much.